Hi there, Agile friends. Get ready for the World Tour of Agile at the Agile Online Summit 2023. You can join us from October 24th to 26th for a global showcase of cutting-edge Agile practices and insights. Join us at agileonlinesummit.com. This year, we will be featuring some of the best work done around the world and world-class keynotes. You can check all of that at agileonlinesummit.com. But the best part is that your ticket is on us. That's right, it's free to attend and immerse yourself in the world of Agile excellence. Don't miss out on this opportunity to level up your skills and network with peers and industry experts. Mark your calendars and secure your spot at AOS 23 today by visiting agileonlinesummit.com. So get your free ticket or opt for the full digital pass that lets you keep all the conference videos forever and organize, why not, Agile learning sessions at work. You can get the full digital access at agileonlinesummit.com. I'll see you in the conference floor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week we have joining us from Germany, Tom Siebeneicher. Tom, welcome to the show first. And how was that last name? Did I pronounce it even close to what it should be?
That was actually quite good. I'm impressed. I have a lot of people who are trying in different countries and hotels and colleagues, and you did it well. So I'm quite surprised.
Very good, very good. So Tom, of course, welcome. And Tom is an engaging speaker who's delivered many presentations at conferences like Atos DREAM Conference, the Agile Leadership Day, TED XKE by Xebia, and of course, their enthusiasm for Agile is evident in those talks. Tom, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show. And let's start with you telling us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do so. As you already mentioned, I'm from Germany. I lived in Germany the majority of my life. I think 2 years ago, I moved to the Netherlands, and nowadays I'm living in Amsterdam. And beside that, I really like to be a speaker on conferences, but also nowadays start to join these little podcast sessions in addition to my work as an Agile consultant at Xebia. So really interesting combination for me. And the other thing I'm doing is in my private time, I go a lot of kite surfing, be at the beach and enjoy that. But how do I become a Scrum Master? Yeah, that's an interesting question because I think it was for 100% the wrong reasons. It was at the end of 2016.
I'm interested in what that means. What could be the wrong reasons?
I think around 2015, end of 2015, I finished my studies and then I started as a consultant in a mid-sized consultancy company with focus on classic waterfall project management, which was nice, was interesting, it was a great experience at the beginning. And I think over the course of the first year, I started to do, okay, what kind of other stuff is there beside classical project management? And I discovered Scrum. So what I did is I got the training, 2 days, I did a certificate. So I was a Scrum Master, right? And then I think it was January 17. And then my boss sent an email. We are searching a Scrum Master for a project in Berlin. And it will be in combination with the States. So probably a little bit of traveling. So I was intrigued, right? Traveling, I could try this new fancy Scrum Master thing I heard about. So I said, I applied. So I had a talk with the customer and the customer was explaining to me, yes, we have a project. We want to implement a new platform and I need a Scrum Master. And then I went through everything I learned and I shared with him what a Scrum Master does and so forth. And he said, yes, perfect. Let's do that. And I think a week later, I was a Scrum Master without a PO, without an actual Scrum team because it was still a project setting. And yeah, off I went, I would say.
How did that feel, though? Because I imagine that you must have had a lot of questions and also like trying to fit what you've learned about Scrum Mastery and then also the classic project setting. So how did that feel?
Tense, I would say, extremely tense because the project was already moving. So the project had a delivery timeline. We had a plan to follow. We had a team, which was also not really well educated in the first instance around Scrum. It was just the idea to let's execute it agile. It will work. So I tried to apply what I knew from classical project management, so work packages and steering committees and all this stuff, and also try to be a Scrum Master. So let's have sprints, let's have a cadence, let's have a backlog. And it was a lot of teaching on the flow. So I reached out to colleagues, I talked with the team, and I think what I really appreciate, everyone was open to it, so we managed. But was it a great start? Definitely not.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody was open to it. That sounds like an important phrase in that context, of course. Tom, let's now dive into one of those difficult moments. Maybe it was from that project, maybe it was from another project, but because today is Monday here on the podcast, we like to explore these stories of tough moments, failures we have as Scrum Masters, because everybody does fail. I fail also. And we also learn from those moments. And that's what we are, of course, aiming for. But before we dive into the learning, walk us through that story. How did it start? What were the things that were happening?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest failure was at a later project with a different company. We had several Scrum teams, and I was already acting as an Agile coach, which was quite nice and interesting to me as well. And I sensed that the teams are under pressure and a little bit.
How did you sense that? What gave you that impression?
It was in Canada. I had a project in Canada during that time, and we had the lucky situation that we had 3 teams, and every team was on the same floor. So it was a big open room. The whole teams were sitting all right next to each other. And when I arrived, it was happy world. Everyone was smiling, coffee chats in the morning, and so forth. And over the time, the teams got more quiet every week, and also they wouldn't talk that much anymore. And also, especially during the sprint reviews, I tried to join partly at least. I also heard a lot of complaints. We couldn't do that because we didn't know that this is the requirement. So the classical things, or we had dependencies no one knew about. We didn't get the information, all these kind of stuff. And what we tried in this setting was that the senior management was involved as well, which was a great enabler at the beginning. But especially in these meetings, they started to escalate. Why no one told me? Why this is coming up now? And all these kind of behavior. So what I tried to do was, okay, let's have a proper retrospective. Let's figure out what the issue is. Let's do it together. I asked the teams, do we want to do a retrospective, all 3 teams together? Because I see a lot of things are overlapping, and everyone was behind it. Everyone said, let's have a great retrospective. And as I said, luckily, everyone in the same building, everyone in the same room. So we prepared a big retrospective. I also ensured that no one is in from the management who could, let's say, take the safety away. And we wanted to do a simple start, stop, continue retrospective. That was the plan. And on the day, we also started with a little cake, and we planned extra time. And I think 5 minutes in, one of the team members said, well, for me, this will not work anyway. I'm leaving, out of the blue.
Oh, wow. I said, whoa, that is quite happening? A statement.
And then another person from another team said, if he is leaving, I will leave as well. So it really got up. And after 10 minutes of complaining and so forth, I stopped. I said, okay, let's split here. Every team goes in a separate room, because luckily I had backup rooms, and let's figure out what's the matter. And the result was that I think half an hour later, we canceled the whole retrospective, because instead of sharing, because I was maybe a little bit too happy world it will work behavior, the teams didn't feel comfortable to be in the same room and so forth. So yes, I planned a wonderful, huge retrospective with lunch, dinner, a lot of fun, and nothing happened. So we canceled after an hour, I would say.
Wow, that's tough. A very important story. I want to dig into that because there's so many different aspects there. So let's start with the first moment where you clearly saw that something was going wrong, when that team member got up and said, for me, this is not working. I'm leaving. How did you feel at that moment? Like, what went through your head when that started happening?
I started to be nervous, insecure, because what did I miss? So what's happening? Because I was so certain that I checked with all teams that we are well prepared, and every emotion which could come on, we can manage in the meeting. So this was my understanding. This is how I saw it. But in that moment, I already felt something is totally off. What did I miss? So what did I do wrong? So why could this happen? Mm-hmm. Which I think also affected my behavior in this meeting, or in this situation.
And when you look back, so of course now with the benefit of hindsight, when you look back, what was actually happening there? Why did that happen? As you investigated, what were the reasons that led to that lack of security by the teams, and even that team member leaving the room?
I think one of the reasons was that I underestimated that certain key players in each team are not getting along. I trusted the Scrum Masters too much instead of talking maybe to the teams in a room or talk to single players a bit more, that it will work, because I prepared everything with the Scrum Masters and I trusted the Scrum Master that they know their teams and it will come together, but it didn't work. I think that was the one thing. And the other thing is because I'm open-minded, I'm quite open. I'm always sharing if something is up. I mean, that's part of my knowledge and part of how I would like to work. But I underestimated how difficult it can be for other people to feel safe and share things, because for them it can be tiny things, the wrong person in the room, or maybe things get documented, or they say something which they're also not certain that it's the right thing to say. So I really underestimated that.
When I hear this story, one of the things that comes to my mind immediately is that as Agile coaches like you were at that time, or as Scrum Masters, when something happens that is unexpected, I think it's very important for us to check with ourselves and start to think, how do I feel? Like, am I feeling still safe myself? Am I feeling still secure myself in this context? And also, do I understand why this is happening? Because one of the things that can happen is when we realize that we are not sure what is happening, we can pose the question to the room, right? Like, we don't know what will happen after we ask the question. But I think it is also very productive for us to accept that not everything can go as we expect it. And of course, when that happens, we have the right even to say, hey, team, I see this happening. Let's say Jeff just got up and left the room. I have no idea why that happened. Can somebody explain what might be some of the reasons why this is happening? Right? Because the room, so the people in the room, have knowledge we don't have, right? And I think that it's very important for us as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches to recognize that we may not be aware of certain things that are critical. And at that point, it is actually good to say it out loud. Like, I'm not aware of why this would happen. Can somebody help me? Well, what do you think about that, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the other thing was also why I'm also so grateful for this experience. I learned from it. So I also took the chance to learn from it and reflected, okay, why did I feel in that moment? Why I was so certain? So I could take so much stuff away from it for myself, for the next retrospective, for the next big room retrospective, if you will, to figure that out. In addition, also this, why did I ask the question? Because exactly like you said, the first thing I could have done instead of sending them away in different rooms is asking in an open room, okay, so what's happening? Is everyone feeling like this? Or what is the atmosphere? So I could connect back to the audience, but my behavior was more like directly disconnecting because I was scared and nervous about something is off. And my behavior then even fostered this behavior in the group. And I think that was a big mistake I learned a lot from.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great story that we thank you very much for sharing with us, because it's not easy to, when you go through that moment and then you realize, okay, I could have and maybe even should have done something different. It's not easy to come out and share it. So we thank you very much for sharing that, Tom, and great lessons from this. And I think for me, one of the lessons that comes up over and over again, and this story is a reminder, is that we don't need to know everything. We don't need to know what the next step is. This is the beauty of working with people. They can tell us what is not clear yet, and they can tell us what might be some good steps to take next. And I think that's a very important realization. Thank you for sharing that story, Tom.
Totally agree. Thanks.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests help their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.